Back for another one, even though I just did one. Okay, so the previous discussions have been just really tiny things, like how to spell Mary and stuff like that. But yeah, let's talk about that today. That, right there, that too. This over here, that, and also this, and that. I'm going to be picking scenes and I'm going to be judging on if it's a hit or a miss, or maybe an in-between, we don't know. I'm going to be trying to split these up a little bit, but we'll just see what happens. So, how about the sad scenes, because they're the easiest to mess up. I think I'll be going in chronological order with this, so first serious/sad scene is Momo in episode 2. I say Momo because it's basically her entire backstory. And by entire, I mean they left out that little really important bit about, her father and the canoeing and the Kagerou world. They just left all that out. But to be fair, it might have been kind of early for that. But a little bit more of a hint than he's gone would have been nice. During this melodramatic scene of, oh no, he's gone, it could have just had Momo doing one of those blink and it turns red things, like Kisarage attention. To give us just a tiny little hint that something's off instead of just, whoops, he's gone. It's pretty good. Not stellar, it kind of bored some viewers and even took some away from watching the anime or made them drop it because it went on for too long. The eager viewer I was watching this scene for the very first time, I got kind of bored of it too. And yeah, it is kind of long for the second episode to have this big of an info dump that actually doesn't get anywhere besides getting to Momo's character a little bit. But let's look at it after the whole thing's finished and after we're confirmed to have more animated material to watch and see more of. Well, the objects in place of people, yeah, I get it, the studio likes to do this whole, whoa, look, we're being symbolic thing, but this isn't really symbolic, it's just there to be there. And making them flower vases, it's just really easy to make fun of it, instead of doing what the scene intended you to do and take it seriously. I even made fun of it. And then of course there's also the teddy bear recruitment thing. If I were just following what I've seen from Persona 4 and Danganronpa, I'd assume something's wrong with the bear. As you can see, again, it makes things really easy for the viewer to lose focus on what the scene's supposed to be about. Instead of, oh no, Momo doesn't want to be an idol because she doesn't exactly understand what's going on with her power yet, or that she even has one, it's, oh, look at little Teddy, he's on a recorder. Is the recorder projecting the voice? How is the Teddy there? Did someone put the Teddy there? Why is he here? Kind of thing. And then next, well, hey, look at that, another object instead of a person. It's almost like Momo's not used to all these people looking at her because she's been around objects her whole life instead of people. So, I think you've noticed my biggest problem by now. These are really well done melodramatic scenes, except for the fact that people are not there and that they're objects. The Kagerou Daze scene from episode 4. It has that music, that music, the dun music in the background, and it's a good soundtrack. It sounds good. It's just, yeah, I don't think it works, really. The song felt super intense, and that let emotions of sadness and being upset and confused well up. And you kind of felt what Hibiya was feeling once the chorus hit and Miku's practically yelling at you about what's happening. But in the anime, most of it is just kind of calm. If everything's quiet and slow, and there's long gaps between conversation, it doesn't even feel intense because that creepy, slow, calm music is still playing in the background. It doesn't work. Hibiya's emotions don't really get by that way. And even when the song starts playing, they get the timing wrong. The chorus hits too early. The chorus starts playing and talking about the crazy stuff that's happening when they're still sitting in the park. That's just bad. You can't do that. No. Okay, so how about next one? The Haruka I Love You scene. This scene is famous, very famous, for making a lot of people cry. When it was portrayed in the manga, that is, because, well, the anime plays the confused card again, in terms of, do I want to be sad, or do I want to be creepy and eerie? Because Takane is crying, but that music, that same song is still playing. I like this song, it's just, they keep using it during the wrong, so it doesn't leave too good of an impression. The scene plays out basically the exact same way as it does in the manga, granted with different framing choices, why'd you do that and stuff. In the manga, this is a scene where Takane's emotions are, again, welling up, and she is very, very passionate about running to confess to him. The creepiness factor that something might be up with Kenjiro works, but that's for creepiness. Like, again, in the manga, this is a scene where everything's disintegrating and Ene's apologizing. Even in the song, she, apologizes and her whole world is crumbling. But in the anime, same thing's happening, except A, you don't hear Ene apologizing. B, there's no voice acting at all, it's just the music. And for that kind of scene, having, her say something or even just scream would have gone much better than just her standing there letting herself be disintegrated. She's properly established in the manga and the novels as someone who would struggle against that kind of thing. When she starts disappearing, she starts doing anything she can to stop it. When she's told that she has nowhere else to go, she says that she'll find a place for herself. Her just letting herself be disintegrated, this is out of character. Again, where the manga and novel had this scene where she finally realized that she got a new body and she's ready to take on the world, is kind of just downplayed in the anime as, ooh, guess I'm digital now, wee, let me float across the dimension or whatever. And she doesn't even seem like she's conscious. It really just takes the whole empowering feeling of her character out entirely. Okay, why not I give some praise where praise is due. Episode 7. Kano's discussion with, presumably, Ayano. This scene is genuinely great. I love it, because it's not like some kind of super impressive this or that in technical aspects, but the scene is just really impressive. It gets across Kano's dishonesty to the others, and him missing Ayano, and he's sad. Look how sad he is. It's even at this time where he has no reason to be dishonest, he's still being dishonest and beating around the bush. This studio likes doing unique artistic touches, but this one actually kind of makes sense in the story, because he's talking to a grave that looks just like all the other graves. You can't even see a nameplate on it. But he's talking to this one specifically, Ayano's there watching over him and stuff, and he doesn't break down crying in the scene or anything, but just the way everything gets through is really good. And then the follow-up is when he finds out that Ene is eavesdropping on him. First, just a little bit of small talk, but then Ene claims that Ayano's last words were dedicated to Shintaro, and that's when Kano snaps, because he doesn't like Shintaro. But the thing is, he's Kano. He's not gonna snap by snapping, that's for later. He's gonna snap passive-aggressively and turn into Haruka, which really just messes Ene up. At first it just seems like a serious, heartfelt conversation between Ene and Kano, but Kano is still being dishonest about how he actually thinks, and instead of just correcting Ene, he decides to get back at her even though there's no reason to, because he's upset too. The thing is, Kano blames Shintaro for all this stuff that happened to Ayano. Even though he knows that Shintaro isn't the direct cause, he wants to deceive himself and convince himself that Shintaro was the one at fault here. At first he takes most of what Ene is saying passively, because she is kind of right about what she's saying about him not being able to save her, but then once she dredges into territory of I feel bad for him and I want to help him forget about the bad things, he's not having the fact that Shintaro is supposedly allowed to forget about her, but he is not. And the thing about this scene is that it mirrors the scene from the third novel. Here is the synopsis of that scene. Shintaro finds Kano disguised as Momo one night, calls him out on it, and in return Kano calls Shintaro out for forgetting it. They go back and forth between you forgot it and no way I didn't forget anything. And after it builds up to a breaking point, Shintaro runs up to Kano, grabs him by the shoulder, turns him around, only to see the light flicker and him turn into Ayano. He believes that this is Ayano and just completely melts down, and Kano leaves. And well, this scene in the anime, Kano is again annoyed about Shintaro forgetting, and then proceeds to turn into Haruka to mess with Ene and make her break down. You'd think that taking the formula and putting it in the show would seem way too similar and seem like it's just copying the scene, but it has its own unique air to it too. I mean, for one, this isn't directly Shintaro Kano's doing this to in the anime, it's Ene. just because she said something about helping Shintaro forget. So what does this mean? It means that Kano is the jerk of the week. You're a jerk and it's your week. Or it could mean that Kano doesn't want to tolerate any kind of talk he doesn't like about Ayano from anybody, but whatever, my interpretation. Anyways, really good scene. These two scenes right here back to back, really good scenes. You know, episode 7 has been getting pretty good marks for me, hasn't it? So this scene is centered around Haruka having him as the main character. It starts with him just kind of confused, dazed even. He goes into a big spiel about how he hates his body and how he wants to do things with everyone, but he just keeps having problems. And, well, this one's weird. At first, the art looks good. Changes things up every once in a while, looks interesting. And then the part where he lies in the hospital bed talking to himself happens. There is a good chunk of the dialogue that is just delivered with just a bird's eye look of Haruka sitting on the bed and nothing really happening. You can barely even see the mouth flaps if they're there at all. The voice acting is what carried the scene because of, well, Mamoru Miyano. Any shot that's not this bird's eye shot of the hospital bed looks good, and especially the one where he's like looking at Konoha leaving and like yelling at it. I'd classify this scene as well done emotionally if it just stopped using this right here, because it seems just kinda lazy. And as good as Mamoru Miyano's voice acting is, if you're just staring at this weird doodle looking thing, it doesn't work. That scene with Kido and Rin. Rin's her name, by the way. That one right there, that's Rin. Not Hoshizora, not Kagemine, it's Rin. It has kind of free reign to do what it wants, since this scene has not been adapted yet. It will be adapted in the 7th novel, but in terms of when this episode aired, it was just talked about and mentioned in stuff like the Wikia page. So it has nothing to be compared to. I think it's a good first impression. I really like the facial expressions in the scene. They're really good. The way she covers her face when the heat goes through the door after opening it, the way she just collapses, and the little flinch hiccup looking thing she does when Rin yells at her, the little look in her eyes when she doesn't want to stand up but has to, the really beautiful shot of her looking back at Rin one last time, even just Rin and her like 2-second appearance is really good. Like, there are several people that have just been drawing Rin and been talking about Rin for as little as she showed up on screen because of this scene. The fact that even before Kido knows that Rin's gonna have to be left behind in the fire, Rin knows, and Rin doesn't hesitate to tell Kido to leave by herself at all. And then the way the scene ends with a melodramatic note of everything collapsing onto Rin, but her assuring Kido that she won't be alone and that she'll find people to be with is just... Aw, Rin, why'd you have to go like that? Oh no. Oh, it's really sad, but it ends on a hopeful note, at the cost of Rin, of course. Good scene. The entirety of episode 9 is sad and melodramatic. Well, let's all be honest here. Saddest part of the episode, right here. Made me cry every time. Okay, but like actually being serious here, the episode just kind of jumps around randomly. It seems more like a somewhat disconnected compilation of scenes than an episode. Like, it just jumps to fun playing with markers to oopsies, they're dead. It's just juxtaposed so much that it doesn't even seem like it's supposed to be too sad. It seems like something straight out of an abridged series or something. Which it really shouldn't be, because this rainy day scene by itself is sad, but the way it's just kind of in and out really quickly doesn't work. And then there are the scenes where Ayaka's narration is over drawings of Azami and the rest. I really like these drawings. Who doesn't like these drawings? They're really well done. And the voice actress for Ayaka does a really good job of portraying a worried feeling of the powers and what's gonna happen to the rest of them. And it kind of just jumps around little small talks, and right when things start to get interesting, it goes back to Kano, and it just kind of turns into expository dialogue, so no more significant sad scenes in this episode, sorry. The Azami story seems kind of lazily in black and white. I especially don't like the yellow subtitles, but that's not part of the official thing. The worst thing about Azami's scene, the fact that during this really emotional scene between Shion and Azami, the most you get to see visually are the stars moving in the sky. This has the same problem as that Haruka scene. This guy right here looks way too much like Seto. Why? Who in the department thought it'd be a good idea in this very confusing series to make someone that looks exactly like Seto, with the exact way they draw his eyes, the exact way they draw his hair, and look at that hairpin? Why would you make it look so much like Seto? Who decided this? I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna fight you. The Shion scene. It's pretty good. I like it more than the Azami scene, and it has nice bits of Shion's actual emotions instead of just skipping around that or passing by it. My biggest complaint with the Shion scene is the fact that the villagers have these weird tribal-looking masks on. Azami scene was kind of weird when the Naruto reject-looking characters appeared, but these masks look even worse than that. Also, you know what? Not gonna lie, kinda disappointed by the fact that Shion didn't chuck a boulder at the guy like she did in the song. That was awesome. How dare I leave out this scene where Azami's in the Kagerou world with Shion and Mary and Wes. It's pretty spook. Also, Mamoru Miona's voice acting is just... I know the word. What's the word? Oh yeah. And of course, the Mary scene. How do I say this? Oh yeah, Sozo Force did it better. Then there are the scenes involving Kano from episode 11. It starts with the scene adapted right from the 5th novel about Ayano explaining Wes and basically just telling the audience what's up. Most of this interaction between Kano and Ayano in these scenes is just him going, no, you shouldn't be doing this, let's think of another way, and Ayano going, there's no other way. But the fact that this happens several times, and Ayano keeps just hammering home the point that she's determined to do this, just brings on a sense of dread, and you can already tell what's going to happen because the show already told you what happened. But because you already know that, you're more interested in seeing how it played out, aren't you? Yes, you are. I like this scene. It's done pretty well. The voice acting, the writing, the facial expressions, the is she going to or is she not going to, and oh my god, she did it, wow, look at those reactions. And then what directly follows with Wes's really threatening talk towards Kano is just, like, it kind of just reaches out through the screen in such a compelling way that it makes you scared of Wes. Like, the viewer has been in Kano's shoes for most of this episode, and seeing this kind of thing happen, and putting yourself in his shoes and being like, well, I'll just tell him that I'll defeat him one day, and having him respond in such a threatening, scary way really gives you a good grasp of Kano's helplessness. And it just makes you feel bad for the guy. And after you're done feeling bad for Kano, you get to feel bad for him even more. Remember that scene from episode 7 that I said was really good? Well, hey look, he's back. This is, again, an adaptation from the 5th novel scene. Well, actually, I'm kind of iffy about this one, because there was this fan comic that was dubbed over, you see, and I think it was actually done better than this anime scene, despite not being properly animated and being a black and white comic. And when animation in this looks kind of stagnant and awkward, and that weird little head tilt. Then it's followed up by that awkward hand thing that no one would probably do if they were actually crying, and a kind of awkward looking animation cut with Seto bringing Kano in for a hug. Like, if you were bringing someone in for a hug, you wouldn't just kind of awkwardly tug them towards you. A hug is defined as you wrapping your arms around someone, not just kind of touching their head and holding it against your chest. That's not how it works. I'm sorry, Seto, but you're getting deduced points. I'm sorry. So, all in all, this isn't a bad scene, it's just, that comic is just too good.
何も知らないくせに。うるさいな！黙ってろよ、お前！何も分かってないくせに勝手なこと言うなよ！能天気にヘラヘラしてさ、僕のことだって不安するだけ心配して！ムカつくんだよ！何も知らないくせにみんなヘラヘラしてさ、姉ちゃんのことだって本当はどうでもいいんでしょ？何言ってんすか？そんなこと、その喋り方やめろよ！もう、なんだよ！なんでこんなことになったんだよ！
Episode 12's fight scene.
どうしたのみんな？いや、別に。
Oh boy. The dialogue beforehand is good or bad depending on how I think of it when I'm watching it. Sometimes I watch it and I think, wow, this is kind of cool. The imagery on the scene is nice and such. And other times I'm just kind of wondering what everyone else is thinking, just kind of sitting there and not being part of this conversation between Wes and Mary. See, like, the thing about this scene is that this is the only way that it has been portrayed in the media so far of how to get a good ending when things get bad. And this is just kind of weird. He explains everything directly to Mary. It'd be one thing if he explains the basis of her being the queen and stuff, but he even explains the fact that the time is looping and that she's responsible for it, and here is how she can avoid it if she wants to. But of course she won't do that. There's no way she'd do that. What do you mean she did that? It's really stupid. And the fact that when he turns into Kuroha, after all these time loops where he uses something like this as his weapon of choice, he just tosses it aside, this useful thing for, you know, preserving my wish and keeping me alive. No, I don't need it. I can just probably punch him a lot and it'll work. And what's even stupider, he punches Kido and Kano, and they go flying really far. You even see Kido's stomach get, like, bent the wrong way, and they go flying and they hit glass. They go through glass and they fall on, presumably, those shards of glass. But they don't look hurt at all. They literally look like they just fell in a pond or something, which is not realistic in the slightest. And you can't do that for characters we're supposed to believe are near dead. They don't look like it. They don't seem like it. There'd be no reason for Mary to reverse time if nothing was wrong. Even what he does to Seto barely seems like anything because, look, no marks, no nothing. Why are most of the characters sitting down and relaxing when Wes is explaining all this stuff to them? Nobody even, like, walks up to punch him in the face. And yeah, there's that intimidation factor, but they don't know what he can do yet. And then even when Konoha is injured, everyone just kind of sits there and looks at him instead of doing anything. And then, when the second person, Kido, is majorly injured, Momo just turns around, like, she doesn't even stand up. The only thing that's supposed to convince us that this is really bad is the voice acting, which is really good, but the whole second half of this episode is supposed to have these big emotions, and if you watch it while kind of just turning your brain off and turning all the shouldn't this be happening or look at that inconsistency, if you just turn all that off, then I guess, I mean, that's kind of how it was the first time. The animation cuts of Kuroha just look really bad and weird, and when what's supposed to be your scariest villain ever only shows up for like 5 seconds and barely even makes a scary impression for a lot of the time, well, how do you take him seriously? Answer, you don't. No one really did. A lot of people joked about this episode instead of going, wow, that episode is amazing, because it should have been. It had all the building blocks it needed. It just didn't exactly stack them the right way. In Outer Science, Mary is supposed to look helpless. In the anime, Kuroha looks helpless. Like, they're just talking to him about how much they're friends, and a lot of it just kind of... And the scene directly after the Kuroha encounter. Mary talks to Shion, with Azami... That might be Azami right there in the background. Is that her? I think it's her. As nice and heartfelt as this is, especially with the context of Gunjo Rain, the thing that bugs me the most about this scene is that why does Shion get to be the only one that gets to talk to the person they went into the Kagerou Daze with? Why doesn't anyone else show up? But it is a good scene, so I shouldn't be ragging on it this much. I'd talk about the Shin-Aya scene, but all I have to say about that is, where is Harutaka? Where are they? Where's our Harutaka? Where is it? I can't... Where is it? Is it over here? No, I can't... Where is it? Where's our resolution? Like, this is Summertime Record, the song where, and I quote, they all say their goodbyes, and no one's saying goodbye, no one's saying anything, no one's chiming in. I feel like we were just cheated out of some genuine Summertime Record scenes, which I really hope they'll be doing in Mikako City Reload or the movie, because we need those. We didn't get any of those. We need them. Please. Leaving that out of the anime just makes it feel kind of awkward, like that one last jigsaw piece is missing or something.